was another very important question, sister. What was your question just now? Very nice question, which I think is... Sorry? Yeah. Why is it, if we have to study by ourselves and practice by ourselves and by ourselves is evil done, why do we have to go and join a temple and do others tell you what to do? Why do we come and study here? You come and study here so that you know the basics, so that you know what it is you are doing. So study is important. But you cannot, at this stage of your life, or at my stage even, you cannot do it alone. You are not developed enough. So what you do is, in Buddhism, very importantly, you need what is called Kalyana Mitta. A Kalyana Mitta is a spiritual friend. A friend who tells you, you are doing the right thing, or you are doing the wrong thing. A friend who tells you, come, let's come and waste our time listening to Uncle Vijaya on Saturday. All right? And say, hey, that's good. All right? And a friend who watches out for you. We can't do it alone. So at the early stages of our practice, we need a Kalyana Mitra. So where do you find those mitras? You find in places like this. So that's the reason why we say you have to come and take part in temple activities and so on. Okay? All right. Now, when we started the class this afternoon, all of you were told to turn around there and then bow down, all right? And then you were told recite the verses, but we didn't quite come to the recitation of the verses. Well, what is it we were doing? You see, one of the first things we do as Buddhists, yeah, is we place our confidence. Remember, we said no faith, but we have to start somewhere. Where do I begin? And so we do what is called the 3 refuges. What is a refuge? A refuge is a safe place. It's a safe place. And what is the dangerous place? The dangerous place is life. We are born, we grow old, we fall sick, we die. What we want, we don't get. What we do not want chases us. All these horrible things, we are in what we call samsara. All right? And if any one of us thinks that living in this world, we are going to be free from that, then think again. Yeah, no amount of prayer in the world will make this world a different place. The world outside is samsara, is suffering. The only refuge from that suffering is within your own mind, which is why we use this symbol. Always when I ask young people, what is this? They will say Ultraman. It's not Ultraman, it's the lotus flower. The lotus flower. Okay, talking about the lotus flower, a little child, what my grandson's age, asked me, Uncle Vijaya, why is that lotus, the Buddha sitting on the lotus? Always you'll see the Buddha is sitting on a lotus. Is the lotus very big or is the Buddha very small? Okay, so this focus we have got to get it right. But anyway, why is it that we use the lotus flower as all over the Buddhist world? Because the lotus flower grows in the pond. The pond is filthy, dirty, muddy, black, filthy, smelly earth. That's where the roots are. But what does the flower do? The flower rises above the water, perfect and unstained. None of that filth is reflected in the flower. But without this, it cannot live. Okay? So, while we live in samsara, while we live in the traffic jams, and now I promise you, those of you who park your cars in the wrong place, you are going to get a taste of samsara. Birds have no toilets. Okay, so you are going to go there and you're going to get very, very angry. That is Samsara. Now, hopefully after today's lesson, you are going to go there and you are not going to say, but you are going to say, may you be well. Okay? Sukhi hotu. And I'm glad I provided a place for you. Okay? So when you get angry, then you're going out there. You're trying to find a parking spot. Just when you are going to find somebody cuts you and goes in there, and you go, okay? Remember, samsara, yes. You do that to the fellow. All right. Okay, you do that. That is the refuge. That is the refuge. That is where we are in samsara, but we need a refuge. We need a safe place. Now we say, ti sarana. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang. What is sarana? Refuge. Malay word, sarang. Sarang, burung. It's a safe place for the bird. So we are also looking for a safe place. Yeah? All other religions find it in God. But we say there is no God. So where do we find our security? From the problems of samsara. There the Buddha teaches us. The Buddha says there's no way you can escape. But if you want to be safe, then he says those who live by the Dharma are protected by the Dhamma. Meaning, if you live in this world and you understand how the world operates, you will not tenggelam. You will not succumb to anger and so on. You will accept it with understanding. What happens has to happen. You cannot change it. If you can change it, try. If you can't, accept it. You cannot escape old age. You do not know the number of times I told my hair, don't fall off. See what has happened. But if I try to pretend that that is not so and wore a wig, and everybody knows it's a wig, how ugly it will be. You see what I mean? That you have to learn to accept things as they are. Old age is not a nice thing. But you cannot have it any other way. You see, this is harmony. This is again Taoism. Learning to live with the changes that go on in your life without actually being affected by it. Okay. Why the Buddha? Why do I take refuge in the Buddha? Because, unlike all other religions, the Buddha was a man. He was a human being just like you and me. As a human being, he realized the problems of life. He realized old age, disease, death. He realized what we want, we do not get, etc., etc. He realized we have no control. From the moment we are born, there is no way we can tell the body, don't grow old, don't fall sick. We are helpless. All right? We are totally helpless. We're helpless against change. We're helpless against. Then the Buddha looked at that. In fact, this is what happened. When the Buddha was still a prince, he was sitting in the park one day. And as he was sitting, he saw a frog pass by. Few minutes later, a snake came. There was a lizard passing by. A frog followed, ate the lizard. Just then, a snake came and ate the frog. Just then, a hawk was passing by. The hawk came and picked up the snake and flew away. Then the Buddha reflected. One of the causes of suffering is we are either trying to run away from danger or we are the cause of danger. And that is going round and round and round. You see? Then he said, this is probably, you see, when he was a prince, he had no clue what to do about being a Buddha. Nobody had done it, taught in his way before. All others said, pray to God. During the time of the Buddha, they were all saying, pray to God and punish the body, fast and all of that. But the Buddha says, no, there's something that doesn't seem right. I told you there were 62 religions. He studied those 62 religions. They didn't give him the answer as a human being. So what did he do? He began to reflect and said, how? And this is what set him off. Then he went through 6 years of absolute torture. Yeah? He sat on the floor when his knee was injured. Then he realized what a fool he was. Okay? And he said, no. He learned the first important lesson in Buddhism, that as a prince, he had given his body everything. It didn't bring him enlightenment. As an ascetic, he had tortured his body. He has tortured his body to extreme lengths. Still, he couldn't concentrate. So he said, I must respect the body. I must feed the body. I must clean the body. Yeah? But I need not cover the body with gold and ornaments and silk cloth. I must cover the body with respect. So, middle path. Having discovered that, he started to meditate, and he discovers that all of existence is suffering. All of existence is suffering because it is caused by craving. That craving comes about because I mistake the unreal for the real. There is no Vijaya, but I think there is a Vijaya. And this Vijaya that I think is here, yeah, is not real. So the I becomes my leads to grasping, and when everything is changing, we can never be satisfied. We will always be frustrated. There is your secret of suffering, frustration. He discovered that. Not only that, he discovered the path, yeah, which is Sila, Samadhi, Panya, the noble eightfold path. Having done that, he decides, I have gained perfect happiness for myself. Nobody else had discovered it before. Now I will teach. So out of compassion, he didn't need to. He was already a Buddha. He didn't need to teach. He was nothing in it for him. But he taught. All right, for 45 years. And he taught many people, thousands of people, how to gain perfect happiness. Therefore, we first of all go to the Buddha and we say, all right, Buddha, you teach me. I place my faith in you, just as we would place our faith in a good surgeon or a good teacher. That's all. So he has done it. He was a human being, and he's telling fellow human beings, this is the way I did it. If you want, you follow me. So I said to the Buddha, okay, I follow you. I go to the Buddha for refuge. But I warned you, the Buddha is not in that statue there. Okay? So people tell us we are idol worshippers. We can tell them to go where they deserve to go, which is the opposite of heaven. Alright? Okay? But always with compassion. You must always say, please go to hell. Okay, right. Okay? And then say, may you be well and happy there. Alright. Okay. Where am I? Yeah. So, we don't pray to the Buddha. The Buddha is merely an icon, merely a symbol of the teaching. The Buddha said, he who sees the Dharma sees me. That means if you want to realize the Buddha, what the Buddha is, then you have to understand his teaching. See, when he gained enlightenment, what it means is, when he gained enlightenment, he became the Dharma. He became the Dharma. This is exactly what we say in Taoism, that when you become the Tao, There is no difference between you and the Tao. You are the Tao is you. You merge and it becomes one. Okay? Similarly, the Buddha became the Dharma. Now he has died and gone. There is no Buddha left. Only a memory of him. But his teaching lives. Sila, Samadhi, Panya. That's what we are looking at. So we go to the second refuge. Now that we have gone to the Buddha in our mind as the person who showed us the way, then we practice the Dharma, the teaching that he left behind. Now, how has that teaching come down to us? Without a broken, and this is not stories made up by us. This is, again, as the Buddha says scientifically, it's verifiable truth. The teachings from the time of the Buddha have come down to us through the Sangha. Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Who is the Sangha? When the Buddha gained enlightenment, 2 months later, he gave the first sermon to 5 ascetics. These 5 ascetics accepted, understood, then they were told by the Buddha, Ehi Bhikkhu. Remember Ehi Passiko? This time, Ehi Bhikkhu, meaning come Bhikkhu. So from that time on, we have the triple gem. Yeah, what we call the Sampao. But the Sampao only comes 2 months after the enlightenment. As soon as the Buddha was enlightened, there was only Pao. Okay? Buddha and Dhamma. In fact, when the Buddha was enlightened after 7 weeks, he didn't eat for 7 weeks. Yeah? When he, after his enlightenment for 7 weeks, he didn't need food. But before he started to go out to preach, he met 2 Burmese monks, Burmese brothers, Tapasu and Ballika. And they offered him what we think must be some kind of biscuit, all right, which is the first meal he had as the Buddha. All right? And then they decided to follow him. That time, they only said Buddhang Saranang, Dhammang Saranang. Only 2. When the monks became Sangha, then only we have Buddhang Saranang, Dhammang Saranang, Sanghang Saranang. That means this is the foundation. This is the pillars, 3 pillars on which Buddhism stands. Now, so the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, we go to the refuge. Why 3 times? Why not 4 times? You want to do 4 times? Go lah. Okay? But 3 is enough. Okay? So 3 times we repeat it. It's a formula. Okay? So 3 times. Buddhang Saranang, Dhammang Saranang, Sanghang Saranang. Okay? Now, maybe you should also know at this very early stage, when we do what is called the 5-point prostration. Alright? So what we do is, we go in front of the Buddha and we do this. A lot of people find it very difficult to do. When for the first time, they say, why should I, lower myself? And, I'm a PhD, no. What is it? It is to kill your ego. Kill your ego. And you discipline your body. When your body is brought under control, sila, this is part of the sila, then only can your mind be worked on. But if your mind, have you ever heard of anybody gaining an enlightenment in a karaoke bar? Okay? Because if the body is not under control, the mind can never be brought under control. Okay? So, but why 5 points? Yeah? I was all the time wondering, see, when I do this, you see, when I do this, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's the other point? We always say 5-point prostration. Yes.
Can you hold the mic?
Sorry. So, why 5-point presentation? The 5-point presentation is the head, the 2 limbs, the 2 arms, and the 2 legs. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with your entire body, with your entire self, you prostrate yourself in front of the Buddha. Not saying that you are inferior to the Buddha. You are not belittling yourself, but voluntarily you are paying your respects to the greatest man who ever lived. It no more than the king. The king may be whatever he is, but because he represents our country, we do respect him. Similarly, we respect the Buddha, just on those terms. Then we put our hands together like this. Yeah, why? This is called Anjali, A-N-J-A-L-I. When we put our hands together when we worship the Buddha, why do we do that? Because thousands of years ago, when people go to war and they catch the enemy, what they do is they tie the enemy's hands together. Today, it has been modernized to handcuffs. Okay? When you put a guy in handcuffs, his hands are like this. All right? Why? Because he cannot hold weapon. Now, you don't have to do it. But you voluntarily put your hands together with an imaginary handcuff saying, I have harmlessness. I come to you with total humility and harmlessness. So that's why we do the Anjali Mudra. Okay? Mudra means hand gesture. Okay, right. What is the triple gem? We have gone through that. It's the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Right. Let's just go back a bit. The Sangha, let me explain the Sangha. Buddha I have explained. Dhamma is his teaching. The Sangha is, a lot of these people don't know this. When we talk about Sangha, we usually mean a Buddhist monk or a nun. Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni. But we are also part of that Sangha. Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasaka, Upasika. Upasaka is male devotee, lay person, and female devotee. So, we are all part of the Sangha. Alright? We are all part of the Sangha. We pay respects to the Buddha for what he did. We pay respects to the Dhamma because that is the living remnant of his teaching. But we pay respects to the Sangha because, as I told you, the Buddha became the Buddha. Then he invited the 5 monks to become the first members of the Sangha, which gives us the triple gem, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Now, when the Buddha invited, here is the Buddha inviting the 5 monks. From that day up to today, these 5 monks ordained the next 500 and 1,000. And they ordained and ordained. And up to today, you cannot declare yourself a Buddhist monk. You have to receive it from a quorum of 5 ordained monks. 5 senior monks must be present. In the case of nuns, the same thing happened. When the Buddha was Buddha for 5 years, that means when he was 40 years old, his aunt, his stepmother, came to him and said she also wants to become a nun. So the Buddha said, okay. All right? She and 500 other nuns, women from the court became nuns. From that day till today, you must have 5 senior monks and 5 senior nuns, altogether quorum of 10 to hand the lineage down. Okay, so in an unbroken chain, from the time of the Buddha till today, it has to be handed down. This is the proof, if you walk backwards, that the Buddha actually lived. That's why I say we are not just saying this, this is a fact. All right? Another pretty useless bit of information, but I think you might be interested. A Buddhist monk's robe is the only piece of fashion that has not changed in 2,600 years. Armani and Gucci, eat your hearts out. You see, this has not changed. They're exactly like the way the Buddha was dressed. These are some of the things, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is that these were the custodians of the Dharma. For 500 years after the Buddha died, 3 months after the Buddha died, they assembled, 500 monks assembled, and they recited every bit of the Buddha's teaching. Everything that the Buddha taught was recorded by 500 monks. That's why we always have our sutras begin, "Thus have I heard." All right? So, and do you know how extensive this is? These teachings run into, get this, they have done a computer check on this, 209 million words. 209 million words. All of which, this is the greatness of the Buddha as a teacher, all of which can be summarized in 4 words. Dukkha, Samodaya, Nirodha, Magga. There is suffering. Suffering is caused by craving. Craving can be ended through nirvana, and there is a way out. And that's only 4. But the Buddha taught 209 million words. They have done this in Thailand. They have done a computer check. Okay? Now, this was from immediately after the Buddha died. For 7 months they stayed in a cave. They recited everything that the Buddha taught, arranged it and everything. From that time till about 80 years before Jesus Christ in Sri Lanka, they always only recited it. Then in Sri Lanka, it was written down for the first time. So that's the first time the Tripitaka. It is called the Tripitaka. The Dhamma is in 3 books. Tripitaka, because it's in 3 books. The first book is about the rules that monks and nuns must follow. That's called the Vinaya Pitaka. Then the Sutra Pitaka. Sutra means the teaching. All the teachings that the Buddha gave, that's the largest part of it, that was recorded. And then you have one more that came a little bit later. It didn't happen at the same time. What happened was, all the philosophy and psychology, the very, very difficult aspects of how the mind works and all of that, that was extracted from the sutras and then put together in what is called the higher teaching. This is what is called the Abhidhamma. So, you have the Vinaya, the Sutra, and the Abhidhamma. Together, you have the Tripitaka, the Buddhist writings, the scriptures, the Buddhist scriptures is that. All of which had been remembered and brought down to us in an unbroken chain. From India, it went to China and Japan and Korea. It went to Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar. Yeah, that history itself is a fascinating study. Yeah, always brought down by the Sangha, the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni Sangha. All right, they remembered, they studied, they taught, but they could not have survived without the upasakas and the upasikas. Why? Because we fed them, we clothed them, yeah, we built monasteries for them and so on. It was our work. So together we formed a win-win situation. They do the studying and the teaching, we do the looking after their material needs. So these 4 together becomes the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Okay? Right. Sorry, not 4, 3. Now, who is the Buddha? A unique being, yeah? An extraordinary man arises in this world for the benefit and happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world. I told you, the Buddha need not have taught us. Once he attained Arahantahood, he actually did contemplate becoming what is called a Pacceka Buddha. There are 3 types of Buddhas. One is a Savaka Buddha. A Savaka Buddha is someone, what we call an Arahant. All of us can, that's the lower stage, we all can. The Buddha's teaching is there. We study and practice the teaching without our own input. We just study and we understand. So it means at second hand. Savaka means one who has heard. Alright. Such a person becomes an Arahant. Savaka Buddha. Then you have those who understand the Dharma without help. They do it by themselves. No, because there are times it is already predicted that you are living in a very fortunate period. Yeah, this is the dispensation of the Buddha. Yeah, the Buddha didn't say it, but the commentators say that this teaching of the Buddha will last 5,000 years. We are now into 2005, so we are halfway. After that, it will decline. It will decline and get forgotten. Get forgotten, and for millions of years, there will be no more Buddha, there will be no more Dharma. Now, if you don't escape this time round, okay lah, you come back next life, and 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 next life. Wait for the next Buddha to come. So you have been warned. Okay? So, that is what we call a Pacceka Buddha. He has studied, but he cannot teach. He hasn't trained himself to teach. Then finally, you have a Samma Sambuddha. That is a Buddha of the type we know today. Not only did he discover the Dharma by himself, you must be wondering, what do you mean this is such a big deal? Imagine in India, and nowhere in the history of mankind did a man come up and say there is no such thing as soul. There is no such thing as soul. There's only a process. Later we'll talk about that, what constitutes a human being. There is no body. I already hinted at that when I asked you where's the baby that was born 68 years ago, okay? That there is no person here. Nowhere in the history of the world does anybody come up with this concept of no soul. Nowhere. But a process. So he discovers it for himself. Even if you compare Buddhism with other religions today, you'll see that the Buddha is... there's another misconception that Buddhism is an outgrowth of Hinduism. That is not true either. Yes, there are a lot of similarities between Hinduism, Sikhism, Jainism and Buddhism. 4 religions that came out of India. Alright? They all have 4 characteristics. Karma, samsara, jnana, mukti. All the religions of India say that we all do actions, karma. That karma, our actions based on ignorance, gives rise to our going round and round in samsara. Buddhism says it, Hinduism says it, Jainism says it, Sikhism says it. First, there is our action. Our action makes us go round and round in samsara, but with wisdom. Not only Buddhism, but all the other religions also say, with jnana, with wisdom, we can get release, moksha. In Buddhism, we call it nirvana, they call it moksha. So these 4 characteristics are found in all the Indian religions. That is where the resemblance ends. After that, the Buddha says there is no creator God, there is no concept of sin, there is no being, there is no body and there is no soul. So what do we say? One pot, same soil. The soil is the same, but you put 1 coconut tree and 1 mango seed. 1 coconut, well, too big. Papaya and mango. Alright? When they grow up, they grow from the same soil, but a mango tree is not a papaya tree. A papaya tree cannot give. So they came from the same background, but they are not offshoot. Okay, having said that, let's come back. Alright? So, a Samma Sambuddha, comes and he has the ability to teach. Alright? And his teaching will last 5,000 years in all. Okay? Now, it is the Tathagata, the exalted, fully enlightened one. Now, 45 years he taught service, he protested against caste system, he declared, these are all the things that he did. He gave women equal rights and so on, which was very, very new in India. All right? In fact, the people, the Brahmins, complained to the king that the Buddha is destroying the social order by giving women equal rights. Okay? He raised the status of downtrodden women. He abolished slavery. He attempted to abolish slavery. He didn't succeed. He tried to fight against the caste system. He didn't succeed. And most importantly, he pointed out the cruelty and futility of sacrifice animals and the futility of rituals. Rituals cannot save you, unless the rituals are designed in such a way that they help you to develop your mind. Okay? Now, what can we learn? He was a perfect equanimity. We can take the Buddha as our model. I go to the Buddha for refuge. Okay? Now, what is the Tripitaka? The Dhamma. The Buddha's teaching. Okay? And what is it? There's a Sutra Pitaka, there's the Vinaya Pitaka, and there's the Abhidhamma. You'll notice one you can turn and turn and turn. The third one you cannot turn because it's so difficult. Okay? It's the profound philosophy. That's what we call Abhidhamma. Metaphysics of the Buddha's teachings. These are all very deeply thought out. I think it was an accident, but okay? Right. By the way, all of this was made by Brother Lim Chinka. And we've used it now for almost 10 years. This PowerPoint was about 10 years old. Okay? Right. Always please remember the Kalama Sutra. Just because Albert Einstein says it need not be true. Albert Einstein's wife should be asked. Okay? It seems he was terrible. He was a terrible husband, although he was a great mind. Okay? Said that there is one religion that could cope. Now, I warn you, I have never read this from Einstein himself, okay? But I read recently a Muslim claiming that Einstein said the same thing about Islam. Okay? I think he might have been Einstein. Okay? The Dhamma can answer many questions posed by science. Why? It is free from dogma. You see, in Christianity, particularly Islam also, there are certain things that are said which cannot be questioned. In Christianity, you cannot question the virgin birth of Jesus. You cannot question the death and resurrection of Jesus. Just two examples. Those are in the area, and then God forgives sins. How does He forgive? He forgives through a quality that He has, which is called grace. All right? What is grace? Don't ask. You have to accept it on faith. All right? And certain things that are taught, which cannot be explained rationally, fall into the category of dogma. Fall into the category of dogma. Reminds me of a story. Once upon a time, long, long ago, far, far away, there lived a Chinese Buddhist monk, Malaysian. He went to Europe for a holiday. So he hired a car and he was driving around Europe. One day it was late at night. So as he was driving, he couldn't see very clearly. He drove too fast. He knocked down and killed a dog. Now he was a Buddhist monk, you see, a Malaysian Chinese. So he felt very bad. He said, the least I can do is apologize to the owner of the dog and see what he can do. Looked around, no houses, but he saw a church. So he went to the church and he knocked on the church door. The church priest came out and our Malaysian Chinese monk says, my karma killed your dogma. Okay. 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 So that's dogma. Okay. The Buddha has always stated that an individual should only accept something. We've gone through all of this, yeah. That after we reasoning and experience. Okay. Why? Many scientific are in line with the teachings of the Buddha. Just to give you one example, the Buddhism has no quarrel with family planning. All right. Most religions will tell you that you cannot practice family planning because it is against the will of God. All right. Buddhists say no big deal. All right. The Buddha says there are only three. You see, the Buddha knew nothing about family planning. Okay, that is a modern invention. But his teaching is so carefully presented that we can apply it without having to make excuses on his behalf. The Buddha says, for a life to be, that means for conception to take place, three things must be present. Three conditions must be present. The egg and sperm must meet. The egg and sperm must be fertile. In the Buddha's word, father and mother must meet. It must be the mother's time. So, in our terms, we say egg and sperm must meet. Both must be fertile. And the third condition is, there must be a being waiting to be born. A being waiting to be born. Now, put that in terms of family planning, okay? Now, we say that family planning, or what's that other thing? IVF. Okay, is it right or wrong? And we Buddhists say we have no quarrel with that. Because we say that whether the egg and the sperm meets on the bed, or whether it meets on a saucer in a lab, one is more fun than the other. That's the only difference. Okay, but it meets. Okay, that's one. Whether it is fertile, it can be no matter how much you try. Sometimes both husband and wife are perfectly healthy people, but they cannot produce a child. Why? Because in Buddhism we say the third one. The third one is there must be a being dying somewhere in the cosmos. Incidentally, in Buddhism we do not say life is only possible on earth. We say life is possible anywhere in the cosmos, not just the universe. So some being must be dying there to be born here. Now, in the case of birth control, yeah, egg and sperm, you just prevent the meeting of the egg and sperm by using a condom or some other artificial means. It's perfectly okay. So we have nothing morally wrong. However, we are very clear on this. Once the conception has taken place, when these three conditions are met, egg and sperm have met, egg and sperm are fertile, Gandhabba has come, conception has taken place, no abortion. Clear, no questions asked. Why? No abortion? Because it is a life. And panatipata veramani. So it's very, very clear. This same with cloning. We'll go into that later. Okay. Now, examples: Einstein's general theory of gravity. When we talk about E equals mc squared, yeah, Buddhism talks about nirvana. Nirvana is simply the absence of E equals mc squared. What is E equals mc squared? Energy cannot be created, cannot be destroyed. It only takes other forms. We are talking about reincarnation. We are talking about rebirth. Yeah, we are talking about recycling. All matter comes back and back. But whereas they say it cannot be, Buddhism goes one step further and says yes, it can. While E equals mc squared is not here, Buddhism says, yes, you can arrive at a state of mind where this state of mind is completely stilled. That's one. But a state of mind where this is equals mc squared, okay? But Buddhists say there is possible a state, nirvana. It's not nothingness, it is no thingness. Now you know why there are so few Buddhists in the world. How much easier to say, Lord, help me explain this. Okay? And the Lord says, come to heaven. Okay, right. Right. Dhamma can answer many questions because the discoveries are, okay, right, Professor William James, stream, Abhidhamma. What the Abhidhamma teaches is exactly in line with the stream of consciousness. Remember just now I drew that thing? And that is part of it. Okay? That thoughts, we are only thoughts. And if we can still our thoughts, then we have that peace, that nirvana, that coming the thing. Okay? Question? No. Okay, right. All the? Oh, yeah, all Jews. All thinkers are Jews. Yeah, all thinkers are Jews. Maybe the Buddha was a Jew. Okay, right. Yeah. It's a fact. All Jews and so many thinkers. Okay. Now, who is the Sangha? Community of monks, nuns, lay devotees. Bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, upasaka, upasika. I've explained that to you. Okay. Then devote their lives to their own spiritual, but to the service of others. You saw that in Myanmar recently. Okay. Buddhist monks have always had it as one of their functions to teach the Dhamma. I told you how they are the custodians. It is not enough to bring a dead book down. The book has to remain alive to explain the teachings of the Buddha 2,600 years later. It's the monks who are doing it. And they are the Sangha. And they are protecting it. And that is why we have to feed them and keep them But feed them and all that does not mean go and give them Rolex watches and Mercedes Benzes. Okay. Food, shelter, clothing, and medicine. Monks only need 4 things. Anything out of that, they don't need. Taking refuge is an unbroken age. I told you about the unbroken. Yeah? In Buddhist countries, for a Buddhist to take his refuge in the triple gem. I explained all about refuge. Refuge is placing your trust, what we call Shraddha. It's not faith, but working according to these teachings. Okay? A devotee takes refuge in the triple gem, not for material gain, nor out of fear, nor for love of fame, nor for gaining worldly powers. Okay? He is drawn by the power of boundless love. That is basically what Buddhism is all about. We have 4 words to cover this one concept of love. Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha. It's a state of mind where you love all beings unconditionally. That is metta. Karuna. You love all beings who are less fortunate than you. Love is not enough. And we proved that in tsunami. We are proving that now with the earthquake as well as the cyclone. We Buddhists in Malaysia are practicing karuna by sending food and everything to these fellow beings who are suffering. That is karuna. Metta, karuna. Mudita. It's easy when you are well off to feel sorry for others who are not well off. But if you are not well off and somebody else is well off, can you feel his joy? As a Buddhist, can you be happy at other people's happiness? It is very difficult, but you have to practice it. Being happy at other people. We believe only parents, Only parents can feel genuinely happy when their children do better than them. But that is a selfishness. My son, my neighbor's son does well. Okay. So how do you do that? Okay, it's something I can never imagine. When our children, I was talking to my class, when I go in a plane, I always sit right at the back, the one next to the toilet. You know why? No children will come and sit at the back. The screaming ones will always be put in front. Okay, and then you have them running up and down. You know, I told my class that it's very cute when your own grandson is doing it. When somebody else's child is... Okay? So, but that is mudita. Mudita is joy at other people's. That kills jealousy. That kills selfishness. That promotes. Then you become a Buddhist. So this one word love. The last one is upekka. We can forget about upekka because we won't be able to practice in this land. That you are unaffected. You remain unaffected by good news as well as bad news. Okay, we call that the 8 winds of change. Yeah? That if you have good news or bad news, you remain totally unaffected. Okay? Anyway, it's drawn by the power of boundless love of the Buddha and the peerless and all-embracing Dhamma and the Sangha to guide him across the vast sea of suffering which we call samsara. And you are end of samsara now. Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu.